and welcome to Ask Pallavi a Question. I'm Pallavi Ahluwalia, attorney at Ahluwalia Law Offices. And today we are delving into the E-2 Treaty Investor Visa, a pathway that allows nationals of treaty countries to invest in and operate businesses within the United States. Joining me is our front desk manager, Sarah Alvey, who will present some of the most common inquiries we've received about this visa category.
Thank you, Pallavi. Let's begin with the basics. What is the E-2 Treaty Investor Visa?
Surely. The E-2 Treaty Investor Visa is a non-immigrant visa that permits nationals of countries with which United States maintains a treaty of commerce and navigation to enter and work in the U.S. based on a substantial investment in a bona fide enterprise. This visa is designed for individuals who wish to develop and direct the operations of a business, which they have invested a significant amount of capital in.
Who is eligible to apply for an E-2 visa?
So to apply for an E-2 visa, so again, if you're present in the country, it's status. If you're seeking it abroad, then it's a visa. But eligibility for the E-2 visa requires that the applicant, number one, be a national of a country with which U.S. maintains a qualifying treaty. Number two, have invested or be actively in the process of investing a substantial amount of capital in a bona fide U.S. enterprise. Number three, seek to enter the U.S. solely to develop and direct the investment enterprise, which can be demonstrated by owning at least 51% of the enterprise or possessing operational control through a managerial position or other corporate means.
What constitutes a substantial investment for the E-2 visa?
We've usually used the dollar value of 80 to 100,000, right? But this number is not a fixed dollar amount that has been pointed at. If it is that we're asking you for the 100,000, then maybe your investment requires slightly a larger amount, but you're showing your bona fide intent there by putting in at least 100,000 to start the enterprise out. The investment, just in general terms, must be sufficient to ensure that the investor's financial commitment to the successful operation of the enterprise is of a magnitude to support the likelihood that the investor will successfully develop and direct the enterprise.
Can I start a new business or must I purchase an existing one for the E-2 visa?
Both options are viable. Starting a new business allows for greater control and customization, while purchasing an existing one can provide that you already have an existing customer base and operational structure, and it's already a running business, as we call it. The key here is that the business should be a bona fide enterprise and the investment must be substantial.
Are there specific business types that qualify for the E-2 visa?
There could be any kind. Though I prefer a product-based company in which you're selling goods and widgets, we've successfully argued for service-oriented businesses as well. Retail operations are mostly common. It could be manufacturing as well. What's key here is to understand that the business must be real, active, and it should generate income beyond just supporting the investor and their family, which means, and I say this quite often, that it should not be a marginal business. Marginality is defined by just supporting your bills. If it's not marginal, it's going to afford payroll for other people as well and support their growth.
What documentation is required for the E-2 visa application?
We should have comprehensive documents, which include a detailed business plan, as well as financial projections for the next. So if you're coming from abroad, and say, for example, you're coming in from Canada, now Canada requires like 5 years of projections because the visa that's given in Canada will be for 5 years. If you're within the country, then a 2-year projection because you get increments of 2 years within the country. So it really depends, but the projections we can kind of inform you, advise you at the time that you're applying for your E-2. We also need evidence of the investment and the source of funds. I mean, your bank statements are key. Your purchase agreements are key in that. Also, we need the investor's nationality proof, documentation that also demonstrates the investor's funds, organizational documents, like the setting up of the U.S. enterprise, your articles of incorporation, your shareholder agreements, your meeting minutes, your director's minutes, all of those. We also need to show your lease agreement or property deed for business premises, and also employee information, because we do advise hiring to people, even if they're part-time employees in the beginning. Now, when we talk about this, I have to point out one thing, and a lot of people do say that if I buy a house for myself, will that qualify for the E2? And the answer is no. It has to be not a passive investment, but an active operating one.
Okay. Can my family accompany me under the E2 visa?
Correct. So if it is that you have your spouse and your unmarried children who are under the age of 21, they can accompany as dependents. Of course, dependent cases have to be filed separately if they are present in the country. But if they are abroad, then they have to file their dependent paperwork at the consulate where they're seeking the E2 visa. And spouses that come in can also apply for the employment authorization here after they come in. But when they also enter the country, they will be given an I-94 that has a mark of an S, and that says that you can come in here and work. If you need that EAD done, that employment authorization document, then you have to apply for it a little separately. Children are not permitted to work in the US as dependents, but they can come and attend school, of course.
Okay. How long can I stay in the US on an E2 visa, and can it be renewed?
So the initial duration of the E2 visa depends literally on the treaty country and what the treaty is. It ranges from 2 years to about 5 years. But the visa can be renewed indefinitely, providing investment enterprise, as long as the investment enterprise continues to meet the visa requirements, the business remains operational and it's non-marginal.
Does the E2 visa lead to a green card?
It does not. E2 visa holders can explore other immigration pathways such as EB5 if they are putting in 800,000 in an enterprise, and that's a higher investment. Or they can have their spouse, if he or she start working for another enterprise, get sponsored for a green card through the perm-based process. There are plenty other options as well that can be explored. But yeah, those are the basic two that come to mind right now.
Can I apply for the E2 visa while in the United States?
If you're already in the United States in another lawful non-immigrant status, you may be eligible to apply for a change of status to E2. However, this does not equate to a visa, meaning that you are then going to be present in the country. And if you travel abroad, then you have to redo the entire process abroad in the consulate. However, there are some consulates that are really tough on the E2 adjudications. And a few that come to my mind are Pakistan and Nepal. We had heard some things about UK as well. Canada has been pretty helpful in how they adjudicate these, but that advice will be given only once we look at your situation to tell you what to do. Also, remember, if you've entered the country on a B2 visa and you want to now explore the option of an E2, you can't apply for 90 days. Hang on. You cannot put in anything that changes your intent, and that'll cause you an issue later on. I'm going to thank the viewers who are going to be viewing this and learning from this about this session on the E2 visa. And if you're considering this, then you'll have to reach out to the office for personalized, customized guidance that we can provide. Thank you.